Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo Podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank with Jeff Kolpack. I'm Dom Izzo, and we join you here on a Friday afternoon after the rather large news yesterday that North Dakota State and Foreign Communications have come to an agreement on a 3-year broadcast rights deal that will begin this coming fall, where WDAY will be the exclusive home of Bison sports, from football to basketball, to soccer, to volleyball. You're going to see all those games on WDAY or WDAY Xtra. You have been around this for a long time. My first year at WDAY was the last year we had the football on WDAY. It was 2006. We still did the coaches show. So Phil Hansen would come in on a Sunday. And I remember my first Sunday here, I got to meet a guy I grew up watching on TV. I remember I said, I hated you. You guys always beat the Jets, and you always
who didn't
dominated.
Beat the Jets?
I know, but the part that we had it, and I don't think I understood it, Jeff, till maybe a couple years later when I started full-time covering NDSU with you, of how attached people were to WDAY, not necessarily for television, but when the radio rights left in 2010, how big a deal that was. And I think for a lot of people, it's back home.
I go back a long ways with this because I grew up with it.
Right.
I think right now, somewhere above, Earl Williams is smiling. I think Boyd Christensen is smiling. I think Ed Kolpack is smiling. They're probably hanging out, I would imagine, with Boyd playing the piano. I don't know, having a cigar and bourbon. Who knows? I think even Eddie Schultz is smiling because he put a lot of heart and soul into the station, and he and Dana were part of the pioneering of football broadcasts in the 80s. If you go on YouTube, you can see those, and you kind of laugh at it now with the technology, which, by the way, we'll get into what we're going to do, I think, or at least we're going to.
We can hint a little bit.
We can hint,
yeah.
I'm going to guess. I'm no techie guy. But I think you go back all those years, and really back then it was all about radio because it was a radio society. TV and sports really wasn't. ESPN wasn't around. It wasn't a thought. And if you think about that with no ESPN, think of a world without ESPN.
Yeah.
A broadcast of a Bison Sioux game in football was huge.
Monstrous.
Was huge.
Yep.
Like, oh, you're going live too.
And everybody watched. Everybody. That's from what I gather from those days, and going back and watching. I've watched quite a bit of the old games that we did, whether it was NDSU, UND, to the playoff games. I watched a bunch of those, Kolpack, at Dakota Field, when Cal Davis came here, and I played a little snippet on the Pittsburgh State. A, how crazy Dakota Field was, and B, the technology at the time, what we were doing was ahead of everybody else at that time, producing live Division II football games on television. Nobody ever thought about doing that, and we were doing that. That was pretty landmark stuff.
I think when Joe Chapman went Division I, he said, well, we got to bring this program from Division II, Division I.
Yeah.
I think looking back now and at the broadcasts of DAY and how Forum Communications has covered the program over the years, it was Division I. We just didn't know it. We had no idea. You look at Dakota Field, it was old. It was seated, well, I'm not going to say 18,000 estimate, but realistically 9, probably 8,000, something like that. But that's Division I these days. There's a lot of programs that average 8,000, 9,000.
A lot would kill for 8,000 to 9,000 to have at a football game. And
FBS would kill.
There's some,
few of those.
Absolutely.
Some max.
There's no doubt on a Wednesday night they would kill to have that. So it felt when this became official yesterday that things had come full circle. And we have been out there covering things. I would think, Kolpack, and we're going to pat ourselves on the back quite a bit. So if that gets annoying for you, you can turn the podcast off.
Are you going to spike the football?
But I would, a little bit, I would say that for the last 11 years, we have done things in the market, and frankly, at a lot of other places that no one ever thought of doing. You know, when you approached me about doing writing on the old Bison Media blog, I was absolutely, I'll do that. And I had some other ideas. I remember I came to you with to say, you know what, we need to get video involved in this. Would you be comfortable doing a pregame show? Would you be comfortable doing a weekly video blog? Because I think people would be interested in it. And we were just doing it having it. Remember, we did it in the old garage here at WDAY, and we would go and do it, and it manifested itself into something now where the company has found it financially viable, and obviously it's sprouted off to what the Bison Media Zone has become. And I would say we've been slumming it for 11 years, and now it's going to be fantastic to be able to do that with even more resources available to us.
I go back. When was the big economic Black Sunday or Wednesday or Friday? Was it 2008?
Yeah, I would say 2008, 2009. Yeah,
okay, I think it was 2008.
Yep.
And I saw a couple people get ushered out of our business. Like a lot of people had layoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, across the country, we all had layoffs. And I thought at the time, I go, you know what? I need to make myself as valuable as I can to this company. Yes, and just being the writer is not being the most valuable person you can be to the company. I need to expand what I need to do. And so I thought, okay, we have the radio, we have the TV. Let's get into radio. So I got into the golf show, which McFeely started, and then I took over. Got into the Saturday morning radio show that you and I did for many years. And then when you approached me, I said, absolutely, I need to get into TV. I need to learn how to do this. And you taught me a lot of things over the years that, okay, maybe lower your rate of pitch of speed or, look at that camera. This is how you address that. Take a pause once in a while. So you taught me a lot of things that, frankly, people learn in class at State University of New York at Oswego. But I had to learn the Al Roker, Dom Izzo school of journalism on the fly. But that's what we did, and it wasn't always great. It wasn't always smooth, but we worked at it, man. Mm-hmm. We sure worked at it. And you know what? Sometimes it pays off.
Yeah.
You put your heart and soul into stuff, and sometimes it pays off. And yesterday it paid off.
That's a good way to put it. I didn't think of it like that till you just said that, because I'm thinking of days where we would do shows out in the elements.
Oh my God!
We'd be closing places down. I think of Indiana State immediately, that they literally turned the lights off on us and
they locked the
doors on us as we were still doing our post-game show in Terre Haute, and all that stuff. No one asked us to do it. None of my boss never said it. Your boss never said that this is required. We just did it because we wanted to do it. It was fun, and before we knew it, obviously we had Eric come on, and Eric added a whole other element when we started doing our pregame show, that to a point where the former coach at North Dakota State asked Big E where his belt was. I mean, we got to a level that I never thought we'd ever would get to, and to where people would ask us, you would get emails, I would get messages, hey, can you bring the show to our tailgate? We'd love to host you. That we would literally rotate among that. That, to me, was the ultimate sign of respect. And now that we have this platform with it, I can't wait to see where things go.
How many times, Dom, were we, say, on the road at Western Illinois when we took that little piece of equipment? What was it called?
The Vector.
The Vector. Yeah. And it was it wasn't cheap. And I remember, don't drop that.
Oh, the DeGero is the first one. DeGero, that was the first one.
Yeah,
that's the first live unit we had.
Okay, yes. So we take
that was revolutionary in its own right.
And how many times we were about to go live, and like 30 seconds, and we still don't have the signal, and I'm going, oh my God. But it always seemed to work.
It did.
At the last second, you jimmy something or you change the
turn it on or off. You know. Well, it's funny.
Move it. Remember, move it. And then we have to move our old chairs, 90 degrees.
Table.
Let's try this way.
We would have instances where it would work better on the road than it would even up at the Dome tailgate lot. And we're literally like 10 minutes away from the TV station. But to your point, I mean, we went and did that. So to that, obviously with the news yesterday, and this is pretty landmark stuff. And I wanted to address a couple things because I know you had comments about it on your story yesterday about the amount of football games. It says 8 to 11. And I think hardcore fans understand this, that the Missouri Valley automatically grabs one of those games exclusively for their game of the week that they put on ESPN3. So that game is off. So now we're down to 10. And in some cases, like in 2022, Jeff, there's an FBS game. Arizona holds the rights to that, and they're obviously a Pac-12 member, so either that's going to be on the Pac-12 network, I hope not, because nobody gets that around here, or ESPN or Fox. That's a game we can't air. So now we're down to 9. So just so people understand that going forward.
Right. You know, the writer did a poor job of explaining that in the paragraph.
No, that's a lot of minutia. I'm not calling you out on that, but there's a lot to it, though.
But yeah, it's not like, oh, we just don't want to do these three. It's a contractual thing that we have no control over.
Correct.
We will do absolutely everything we can possible, and we will. We will push the envelope, and just like we pushed the envelope in the last 10 years, because that's what we've done. We said, okay, can we do this? Oh, the answer wasn't, I don't know. The answer was, let's try it.
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Let's try it. Let's find a way. You know, it's like that football team in the fourth quarter they're down 6, have 80 yards to go with 2 minutes. Well, find a way. Find a way to do it.
The interesting part to me is basketball. Now, basketball has been televised. Midco has done that and done a really nice job over the last, I'd say, 5 years. But not to this extent. The amount of games that we're going to do, up to 40 men's and women's basketball games, basically the entire home schedule. And you and I have debated this for a while about getting quality opponents up non-conference to the Shack. The Bison men are going to get that. Some teams that couldn't come this past year because of COVID are on the schedule. Indiana State's coming to the Shack next year. That's a good Missouri Valley team. The Bison haven't got those games. Those games are going to be on TV. And I think and on Xtra, which is such a big deal. And I'm saying this completely to me. My show is on Xtra every day. We've done live sports. You've seen it, whether it be our state tournaments we've had on there. The marathon, which you've been a part of, has been on Xtra over the past half decade on that front. I'm super pumped for people to be experienced to that and the tonnage that we're going to do. We're going to do all these games. It's going to be great.
It's going to be, and we'll try to do, I think, as much as humanly possible, and we will do that. Now, I've been asked this too, is my job going to change? Is Mike McFeely's job going to change? And the answer is absolutely not. We will still ask questions of the program. And you know what? That's good for the program.
Yes.
Keep doing things right. Maybe if we're willing to holding people accountable, then so be it. But everybody's good for it in the long run. The university's good for it in the long run. The athletic program is good.
And the fan base is.
Yeah, because you know why? Because we know they're doing things right. You know why? Because we ask the questions.
Correct.
And they are doing things right, as far as we can tell.
It's a good point you brought up on that, because I was asked that as well. Is there going to be any softballing with that? No. I mean, we've been the only ones writing the difficult stories, the business stories,
and they've
over
been
the last
better
10
for
years.
It. University, the athletic, they've been better for it.
And I think the fan base is more knowledgeable for it, whether it was the ticket fiasco the first year we went to Frisco, whether it was remember, gosh, what year it was, the chairman of the FCS playoff committee came on our old radio show and broke the news they were going to do the rankings on our show. That was knowledgeable for the fan base, because now I would argue that the North Dakota State fan base is the most knowledgeable when it comes to the FCS playoffs of anybody out there. I think that's because of the work we've done on that front to shine a light on that people just didn't know about.
Now, moving forward, I'm curious to see what we're going to do next as far as and again, I keep using the word pushing the envelope. I'm not sure. What are we going to do? What's our next level, I guess? And I'm curious to see what our next level is, because it has to be a next level or 2 levels.
I think you're going to see a lot of familiar personalities, ourselves included, in different spots. Does that mean the change of how we do things? Possibly. I mean, does it mean how we did our traditional pregame show? I think that's going to change, absolutely, because we're going to have a pregame show that's on WDAY now.
Right.
And that's going to change in its own right on that front. Does that mean it's not going to happen? No, it's just going to look different. And it's going to be more readily available to people as well, which I'm excited about.
Am I going to be part of this?
I would think you better keep your phone on. I would say you're probably going to get a phone call eventually on that front. So, and that's the part that's exciting, and goes back to what we talked about. Had we not done this 10 years ago, then, and I'm going to speak frankly, I don't know if that opportunity would be there for you. But we've done that. You've done live TV with me. We did the Fargo to Frisco shows live down there. We did a 90-minute show from Texas live on WDAY last year before the James Madison game. Those are opportunities we just haven't had.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting where we go with this. I think that we have a manpower. We have some power here.
Yep.
And when we go on the road, and I want to bring people that cover FBS, Pac-12, Big Ten. Nobody covers that I know of and maybe they do, but I don't know if anybody, media entity that brings like 5 people.
Yeah.
Maybe LA and those do.
You know what I was thinking was Nebraska. I would think maybe them, the Huskers with football. I think they still get a lot of people to
but
not
one
from
entity.
Not from one entity is your point, though.
Yeah.
And yes, you're right about that. Correct. I don't believe so. Maybe 2 guys from a paper, but not 5. No way. I mean, on the ground, when we were in Huntsville a couple weeks ago, we had 2, you and Mike from newspaper writers. Dave Sampson was there taking photos. I was there from WDAY.
And where were we? Outside.
You're not going to get over that, are you?
No.
My sunburn's finally over on that front. I haven't talked to Greg Medea. I think he was outside.
The valley,
well,
the valley,
James Madison.
The valley's used to us, and they know we bring a bunch of people.
We bring an entourage.
But sometimes when you go to non-conference, they're like, "No, how many? Who's coming?"
But to your point, though, you're exactly right, and we've done that without the rights.
Right.
We've done that without the TV rights.
Because it's the right thing to do.
Yes.
It's the right thing for our readers, our listeners, and our viewers. And that's how we bring it, and we will bring it, man. We're going to bring it.
It's going to be really exciting. I'm super pumped about what's to come. And we'll put out information as soon as we can about who's going to be part of the broadcasts. All that is going to be decided in probably a short amount of time. The other one part of this, and I want to move on, is the Olympic sports, too. So baseball, softball, wrestling, volleyball, soccer, all of those are going to get games on Extra as well. And that's a big deal. Wrestling, I'm super pumped about because I know it's the Big 12. There's another team coming into the Big 12. Missouri's coming into the Big 12 next year. Another known quantity. That's, I think, an untapped resource there, Kolpack, that people I think will watch. I think they really will on TV.
Yeah, wrestling is...
you cover it all the time. I think people will.
Yeah, I've covered it for decades. And NDSU... I think they're getting better. I think they're getting toe-to-toe. They got to continue to recruit maybe that next level guy. It's like they have a handful of guys. Now we need to see this program maybe get 2 or 3 more and make a top 10 run in the NCAAs.
It'll be on television to see, which will be all the more. Softball prior to this year has been dominant. Baseball's having a heck of a run. Soccer's always been good. I'm excited to bring those sports to. Volleyball's always been good. That'll be fun to have those
You're
sports.
pretty good soccer mind, aren't you?
I am not a great soccer mind. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm a better wrestling mind than I am a soccer mind.
I didn't know that.
I enjoy it. I do. It's a sport we did not have.
You know the moves.
I know some of the moves on that.
Well, you need to get a good color analyst.
Yeah, I enjoy baseball, obviously. I'm not sure if we're going to tap into your alumni status to help out with the broadcast on that. If you want to chat about your 205 batting average on the broadcast.
Was it 205?
Am I giving you too much there?
I thought it was like 240.
I don't know.
It wasn't very good.
We want to attract viewers to the broadcast, all right? We don't want to send them away on that front. You want to chat about the game this weekend for a little bit before we wrap this pod?
Yes.
So the game to wrap up the FCS spring season, 1 o'clock on Sunday, is South Dakota State and Sam Houston. You can see the game on WDAY. Each team has been there.
Thunderstorms,
Yeah.
50% chance of rain.
Obviously now, thunderstorms we never had to worry about in January. And I was talking about the weather before I wrapped up my show on Friday, that I would say 3 of the years we've been down there, the first Sam Houston game, Illinois State and Jacksonville State, is when it's been just downright cold. Obviously, the last time, the weather was nasty before the game, but it stopped when the game kicked off. It's never had inclement weather for the national championship game.
Well, it's never been in thunderstorm season.
Correct.
So now it's different. Now it could be a thunderstorm and then out of there. But I see South Dakota State winning this game because I just think I look at the way they handled NDSU up front. And if you can handle NDSU up front, I think you're in a pretty good position to handle anybody. But I get Sam Houston is explosive.
They showed it in that game against James Madison.
But I think NDSU has proven over the years, 8 and 9 times, that the stronger, more well-conditioned team that can run the ball wins this game.
What do you say about Sam Houston just playing like a team of destiny? Like they shouldn't have won the Monmouth game.
Or they may run out of their destiny.
One or the other. I mean, they shouldn't have won the Monmouth game. They hung on and beat the Bison. They made an improbable rally to beat James Madison. Does that Does that carry over, or like you said, do they run out of the magic?
Well,
here?
they got some mojo going. There's no doubt,
Yep.
and there's some team mojo going there too. Obviously, that Casey Keeler has, and that culture thing and the mojo plays a big factor. But so does South Dakota State.
Yeah.
They have let's win one for our 80-year-old coach.
Oh yes, for the former coach too. Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I think SDSU wins this game pretty comfortably. Actually, I think they win by 10. Just the way they dominated Delaware. And Gronowski's getting better each week. Their lines are strong, Kolpack. I mean, they ain't going anywhere. When we get to the fall in a few months, South Dakota State's going to be really interesting to see how they pan out.
Yeah.
Their FBS game is at Colorado State. That's a winnable FBS game next year for them.
We'll see who goes to the portal after this game, too. Be a lot of eyeballs on it.
You tweeted that out.
Gronowski, you don't think FBS schools are looking at Gronowski right now?
Well, that's the interesting part is that all these FBS teams are watching right now, but don't you think most of their spots are accounted for?
No, absolutely not. When you got a guy like Gronowski, this year doesn't even count. He goes, he transfers to FBS. He's got 4 years.
Yeah, I get it. So you tweeted
he's ripe. He's the prime ripe person right now to get plucked.
So you tweeted out on the after the All-Americans were announced, the first team All-Americans, how many were going to be into the portal.
It'll be interesting.
I get where you're going with it. I totally agree with you, and that's the right mindset. It's also, you think of it, you just sigh, like, man, you're right. How many of these guys are actually going to finish their careers with the teams they're on right now?
You started this.
Yep, I did.
You started this.
And you're absolutely right. And I read that tweet and like, yep, Kolpack's dead on. I'm curious to see how many of these guys that aren't seniors, that were first-team All-Americans, that end up being at their schools when they're done. Half? I think you take that number and run if half of them are.
Well, certainly all will get contacted.
Yes.
Right? There's
agree.
just way too many FBS schools that have a need of some sort that, hey, we need a tight end. Okay, who's the first team tight end? Oh, a guy from Delaware. I'm just making it up. Whatever. Well, hey.
Well,
and what they do is they contact his high school coach.
Yep.
His high school coach contacts the player. That's totally legal. And the high school coach goes, well, Central Florida's calling, and they need a tight end. What do you think? Boom. Next day in the portal.
how many conversations do you think have been had with Otis Weah right now? Or through Kevin Feeney?
I'd be shocked if there wasn't several.
Yeah.
There's got to be. He's a dude,
Yep.
man. And it's not like he's not like he's 5'5". He's not like he's Jalen Bussey, who has, I think, a great role at FCS. I don't know if, the FBS guy. Otis is 210.
Yep.
And he just bounces off people.
Yeah, that's really going to be fascinating to see on where this pans out over the next couple months. Between that and now the recruiting dead period ending on June 1 are the two stories I'm really interested to see, because now in-person recruiting can now resume, which has not happened since March of 2020. So for the guys that are about to commit, Kolpack, for the class of 2022, this is their first time to actually go somewhere. And there's a good crop of local guys. All of them have the 4 FCS schools around here. NDSU, UND, SDSU, USD have all offered them to see if anybody sticks around or if they go to a higher level.
And this goes for all sports. Talked to Todd Brown yesterday, the Bison baseball coach. He's going to have to continue to recruit his own kids.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's all sports.
Yes, right. It's not just, football obviously goes without saying, and we've talked plenty on basketball front as well, because, the basketball portal is about, I would say, more active than the football one. Wouldn't you agree on that?
Over 1,200 players?
I think basketball's got a ton of people in there, and that's the one that's really been
There's going to be
up.
homeless people out there, and I mean that in a school sense.
Yep.
There's guys that are going to enter the portal
with no place to go.
and they'll find nothing there. Then they'll go back to their old coach.
Which they can.
But
That's lower than the rules.
But if they've moved on. Sorry, your scholarship's gone. We gave it to somebody else.
Yeah, I don't know how
Which
that
is
goes.
sad.
Yep. But also,
you made the choice.
That's the world we live in, right?
And it's your choice.
Exactly. And if some coaches they say, well, you know what? We moved on. If you don't want to be here, we don't want you here. And I don't blame coaches for thinking that either, because they got to take care of the team.
Again, I said this on this podcast last time, that if I'm a parent of a kid with a full ride and he puts his name in the portal and there's nothing on the other side, all of a sudden you just gave up $60,000, son, in education plus cost of attendance. I'm talking about NDSU basketball.
Yep.
I'm not going to name names, but kids with full rides just gave up $60,000 in education. $60,000, Dom.
It's going to be crazy.
Because I wasn't happy with my playing time.
I wasn't playing enough. Yep, basically what it comes down to.
And you're not going to the NBA, by the way.
And it's only going to go up from here. I'm telling you. It'll settle down, I think, this time next year. There'll still be movement, but not to the extent of what we're seeing right now on that front. All right. Have we spiked the football enough, or you want to do another one here?
No. And again, listener, that's not our style, but, sometimes I just told like this, sometimes that everything we put in the last 12, 13 years, I thought came to fruition yesterday.
Yeah,
and now the work starts.
Yeah, now it really begins, honestly, to get ready for what's going to be some
I'm excited for it. Again,
broadcasts.
I'm excited to see where we can take this.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And a special thanks to our bosses at the Forum and WDAY for giving us the resources, whether it's the two of us, to Mike McFeely, Big E, Eric Peterson, who've been right there with us the entire time. I tweeted out some of those photos from us from whether it was we were at Iowa or wherever, Eastern Washington, to wherever across the country that we have gone. And we've been Delaware, we were there last year. We've been fortunate to go everywhere with this show. And now I'm super pumped that it's going to have a wider audience. We've had a really good one online, and I think we're going to have a bigger audience on television. That's what I'm pumped about.
Can't wait.
My dad actually wants to do the podcast with you now going forward. So he wants to get in. He thinks he has some sliver of this now that, we have the contract. So what do you think?
He's significantly more interesting than you are.
He said you guys are the same height, so you could work out on that front. So
that makes a difference in broadcasting, yes. We need to get shorter people. Big E's just too tall. Or at least sit down.
Hey, it always worked out height-wise, right? Yeah, we went from Mike to E to me to you. It always worked out. We lined it up like that.
Where's Bob Costas?
Congratulations, my man. Enjoy your weekend. It's going to be good stuff. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo Podcast. If you missed any of them, you can download them at inforum.com or at Apple iTunes. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll be back next week to break down the championship and look forward now to the spring 2021 football season. We'll see you next time.